welcome back to the YouTube channel Proteins of Vidz, and this is the Ankle Breaker Podcast, episode 69. So we are getting very close to episode 70 now, only another episode away, and yeah, it's exciting as we're getting closer to another milestone on the podcast. But tonight is episode 69. I'm joined by, as always, co-host Champa, and tonight's special guest on the channel again, Dragons fan guy. Look, boys, how have you been? And yeah, it's been a big week of footy, that's for sure. But I'll start with you first, Champa. Good to have you on the podcast again, bro. And how's your week been? Like, what's been happening?
Oh, what's up, everyone? Yeah, my weekend has been great. Welcome everyone to the podcast, and yeah, I can't lie. My weekend was good. I spent the weekend up in Newcastle, and I even ended my Newcastle weekend with attending the South Knights game. And yeah, me and my partner were at that game, and I can't lie, the atmosphere there was amazing. A packed out McDonald's Jones Stadium. First time I've been to McDonald Jones Stadium, and definitely not going to be the last, because that was such a beautiful stadium. And yeah, well, we'll get to that game very soon, but I'm keen to get through to this podcast. And yeah, mate, episode 69, one episode away from the big 70, and something about 69. It's such a good number, such an inspiring number. So I'm glad we're doing this episode.
Oh, I didn't realise.
For some reason, I was waiting for someone to say that. Like, I was going to say something at the start about 69, but I knew someone was going to say it sooner or later.
Oh, typical boys.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah, that's right. And Dragons fan guy, how you been, bro?
I've been very good. Always smiling and having joy in life, and yeah, going great, guys. Going really good.
Yeah, nice, bro. Nice. Yeah, look, it's going to be a good show tonight. As always, got a lot of things to talk about, and yeah, when isn't there a week without controversy in the NRL? Because there's more controversy this week, and well, it's going to feature on the topics tonight, so we're going to talk more about that. But let's just go through the live chat, see who's turned up so far. So, as always, a very loyal subscriber of the channel, Jason Reader. Hello, evening. Jim the Chooks fan, hello. And Josh Roberto 2023, Viking Axe, SS Storm fan. And yeah, that's who we've got so far. So it's not a bad crowd, and good crowd for tonight. So yeah, hope you all enjoy the episode. But yeah, I think it's time to get into the topics and what we're going to talk about tonight.
Let's do it, bro.
Yep.
Let's go. Well, yes, of course. So before we do start, now I was in New Zealand. I heard about this news, and it's really tragic to this day, even though it's like been 3 days since or 2 days since he's passed away. And yeah, so people should know who he is, because he's been in the NRL for a long time. But Kyle Turner is a player that played a bit at South Sydney, and he's been he won a premiership at the Rabbitohs too in 2014, and he's had a long association at the Rabbitohs, but it's really sad and really heartbreaking to hear that he has passed away, which I think was due to suicide. I'm not too sure, but that's just, I think whenever you hear someone die of suicide, it makes you wonder what really has happened to their, I guess, life, what's been happening in their, situations of what's been occurring. And yeah, it's a real shock, because he's an NRL player. That's another thing. Like, well, not playing anymore, but he's a former player. And last year in August we had Paul Green passed away in the same month, and now it's Cole Turner. So it's really just disappointing and really upsetting to see that has had another blow to the NRL community. So I will just ask you both. Now, obviously, it's I hope the family's going all right. I'm sure everyone is praying for him and his family, and those close to Cole Turner. But I guess just a nice little dedication to him, and just a little message about his career and what we've made about it. So I'll start with you first, Dragons fan guy. With Cole Turner, because I'm sure you've watched him plenty of times play, what's some things that have stood out to you about his career, and what's some of the nice memories we can look back on and think about him?
I actually got to know him quite well. Only recently online, but over the years I've met him quite a few times and talked to him, and had him on a video call. I don't think the video actually is still up. It was my first actual guest. I'll have to try to re-upload that video. I was actually quite upset. I would consider him a good mate of mine. Actually kicked the footy around with him once. So, yeah, very sad. I'm trying to get in contact with his family at the moment to see if there's anything that I might be able to do. But I look back at his career as being really good player, and not many people didn't dislike him. And, he hasn't played in quite a long time, but, someone that's very recognisable and that, very sad. And, not really nice guy and always happy to talk. And I think the NRL had paid tribute to him very well. And I think next year there should be a mental health round at some point, most definitely. So that's really all I can say, to be honest.
Yeah, no, well said, bro. Well said. And I think when you said mental health round, I think that's really important for the NRL to consider, because they consider everything else but a mental health round. So, and seeing what's happened to Kyle Turner makes you wonder, when are the NRL going to start making more of an action, players' welfare and just welfare and anything like that in general. I think we need to take more of a stance on that and make more action. Champa, just some quick words by you, bro. What's your, I guess, little thoughts on the career of Kyle Turner in this tragic time?
Yeah, look, he was a very handy player to have within the South Sydney lineup. Great player coming off the bench, slotting into that second row, and it's great that he won a premiership. All the way back with South Sydney back in 2014. It's unfortunate how his career ended with that, injury. I'm pretty sure, was it to his neck? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
His neck injury, and back in 2019, South said, there's nothing left for him, and obviously he retired and became a school teacher down. I forgot the name of it off the top of my head, but back, I believe, down to his hometown, and it's unfortunate that he just how he went. So, it's great that South Sydney retired the number 15 jersey, the jersey he won the grand final in. And yeah, look, I send my condolences out to the Turner family and to all of his friends during this moment, and just for everyone in the chat, if you guys are going through any tough times, and you feel like there's no one to talk to, just know there always is. Whether it's your parents, your mate, your family, anyone, there's numbers you can call, lifeline services. Just know there's always a better way. All right, and rest in peace, Carl Turner.
If I can just add one other thing, I won't get into the personal details of it, but I know that with my personal mental health battles I've had over the time, that there's always going to be someone there to help you. There's always services available. There's also anonymous ones as well. There's always family, friends, a teacher, your neighbour. There's always someone to talk to now in this generation that's different to the past, where there was barely anything. We've got a really good generation with all the help you can receive. So I know that with the help I receive, that I'm in a much better place. So yeah, there's always going to be help for people.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And you know what? Beautifully said, Champa, and I agree, Dragons fan guy. Yeah, there's definitely always help out there. There's always, services you can contact to, I guess, help yourself out and get the right sort of support you need. So, and yeah, I mean, that's definitely why it's better now to talk to someone, as that resolves mostly everything. But I'll just say with Kyle Turner, yeah, look, it's still very disappointing and upsetting to see. And yeah, I think for most of his career, he did play with with his neck injury, like Champa said, he always had like something in the back of his neck, like a little plate or something that protected him. So people do forget that he did play through that, and not many players would continue playing with a neck injury or any spinal injury, and he did. So that's a real testament to his career and what he's done to sort of keep playing despite all that. So Yeah, and he was he was a good player too. He definitely was a good player, and he, used to be called well, he had a nickname because when he tackled players, he'd usually stick and stay on them, and he would be a great defender. And yeah, that's what he was. Yeah, he was always remembered for his defense. He was a really tough player. So look, rest in peace, Cole Turner, and I really hope the family and friends of him do pull through this tough time. It's really sad and 100%. But yeah, look, I hope I hope the family's going all right. That's probably the main thing for me. The family's getting through it all right because it's whenever suicide gets involved in death, it's it's bad. So well, yeah, but good tributes by all of us there. Now I just saw something in the comments that CJ mentioned, and this stood out to me. I don't know what the source behind it is. I mean, 360 has said a bit. You can't always trust them, but he just said. Some news out of NRL 360. Seahawks have contacted Wayne Bennett to return in a role in 2025. Wow. That's interesting. Would that be like a general admission role or no general manager role or some sort of higher role in the club? Like what would it be? I just don't know. Very interesting news there. If that does come off as true. What do you think of that? If that's true?
Well, look, if it in some way means a coaching role, I really hope that South Sydney haven't lost faith in Jason Demetrius. I still think he's a quality coach that can, ring the belief back into the South's team. And look, we're not going to get too much in South because we are saving that for a topic later on in the episode. But I will say it's very interesting to see that South Sydney have contacted Wayne Bennett, and I think look, if this is true. I guess it all is down to Wayne Bennett whether he wants to stay at the Dolphins and keep building this new club, or if he wants to return back to South and sort of finish off some unfinished business he has there. But look, I'd love to see him stay at the Dolphins. I still think the Dolphins have a lot of potential to be a top club in the NRL, and I think with the help of Wayne Bennett, they can reach those heights. So it's all up to what Bennett does.
Definitely, yeah. And I think with Bennett, he's getting a bit older now, so I don't know how much left he has, but he's a quality coach. We know that. So, yeah, I mean, this would be big if it was true. Dragons fan guy, any quick thoughts before we get into...
Well, I mean, you lost... I mean, I think he'll probably finish his coaching career or professional side of the rugby league at the Dolphins. I'm not sure how old he is now, but I'm not sure how long he's contracted there for. But I think he'll probably finish at the Dolphins. I can't see him moving back to Souths again, to be honest.
Yeah. I suppose we'll see what happens, but yeah, I agree. I think Dolphins will be his final destination of his rugby league sort of career. Now we'll move on to the real sort of topics and stuff now, and we'll go through our round 25 review of the week it was. So just our quick thoughts on what we thought about the round it was and some of the games that did take place during this week. Champa, what did you make of round 25, bro? What were some things that stood out to you in some games?
It was a very interesting round. Look, unfortunately, with your boys, Manly, unfortunately, taking the loss to the Warriors, and unfortunately, putting the axe through the Manly season, they are officially done. I hate to rub it into you, Pro-ins there, but it was still an entertaining game. It was Manly came to New Zealand, which is now a fortress it once was before, and just they came with a purpose. They were fighting for everything they had left. For that one part of their season they had left, and they went the distance. They truly did, and it was great to see that happen. We saw Dragons Storm. The Dragons in the first half, surprisingly, giving it to the Storm. The Storm did find their footing and did end up with the win, but it was great to see the Dragons put in that fight when really it was a dead rubber game. I gotta say, it's great that we snapped that losing streak and Tigers pulled through. Api Coruscant with the clutch penalty kick. It was just honestly, look at that kick. It was beautiful how it curved and then bounced over the crossbar to go in, picking up the win, 24-23. You can't get any better than that. And of course, the game that I went to, South Knights. Now, this was a very, very interesting game to see, and interesting in the way that the Knights turned up with a purpose. They wanted to cement themselves in the top 8, and they did with a win over the South Sydney Rabbitohs. And yeah, look, it's great to see how the Knights are going. And look, I feel like it was a very entertaining round of footy.
Yeah, no, well said. And I think with some of the games that did take place, yeah, for sure, it was entertaining. And yeah, credit to your Tigers for breaking the winning streak. And it's funny actually because when that moment happened where Appy kicked the goal, I was about to take my flight back to Sydney, so I saw it just in time before lost connection on the plane. But yeah, that must have been a bittersweet moment for yourself and every other Tigers fan to witness that. Like, just
loved it. Oh, it was great. It was great.
Yeah, great stuff, honestly, from Tigers and the fans. Dragons fan guy, yeah, your boys came close. They went well against the Storm. They definitely, turned up and actually put some effort in, which you like to see, obviously, but not the result. But what do you make about the round of footy and just in general?
I thought it was a generally good round. I really thought that the Knights and Souths game and the Dragons and the Storm game were my favourite games of the round. I mean, I was happy to see the Tigers win. To be honest, made me an extra $15 on my bank account. So, it's always a positive. But I mean, I thought my boys we tried our best. I was just happy with the effort. Unfortunately, we didn't get the win, but I was happy with the effort, and just disappointed that I wasn't able to attend the game. But I was just really happy with the effort and thought the Souths game and Knights came with a purpose, as you said, Pro Enzo. And yeah, I thought it was a generally good round.
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's a sign for the Dragons, I feel like, with this effort. Like, I think Flanagan, the incoming coach from next year, would like to see a bit more effort like this, and I'm sure he'll be able to hopefully capitalise on that, going forward. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, look, if I'm being honest with you both, I didn't really get to see much of the round, to be honest. Apart from the Warriors and Manly game, I didn't get to see much of the games. Like, so here's the thing: Cowboys Sharks on Thursday. I didn't get to watch much of that because I didn't have internet at the time, and I need data over in New Zealand because the data I'm with, I don't really have that connection with New Zealand, only in Australia. So missed that game, but I watched the highlights, obviously, after I got internet. But just looking at the highlights, when I got home, I looked at some of the games and actually sat back and watched them overnight. And, some games that stood out to me, like Tigers and Dolphins was okay, but mainly towards the end, though, when it got a bit more intense and it got more tight. So, yeah, I guess that wasn't actually too bad for bottom 14 going at it. And then games like, I guess, Dragon Storm was entertaining. And probably another game to me as well, which I actually did not mind, was Knights and the Rabbitohs. And yeah, I know Knights were pretty much runaway winners, and obviously Champa was there to experience that. But Souths, they weren't actually bad in the first half, I felt like, but in the second half, they just gave up. And unfortunately, Latrell really went off the rails there for a bit. And yeah, it's disappointing to see where Souths have come, but we will talk about them soon. But yeah, I suppose it's okay round, I guess, but obviously, finals coming up closer would make things a bit more interesting. But yeah, I think it was an all right round of football. What was our round 25 player of the week? A few options to pick, but who would you say is your number one player of the week? I'll start with you first, Dragons fan guy.
Trying to think. I'd have to go with Billy Burns, in my opinion. I thought he played really well, and definitely deserves the contract extension. And I think we'd be stupid not to give him an extension. I'd go Billy Burns, but I'd put Sean Johnson close to that as well, though.
Yeah, SJ was good on Friday, I have to admit that. But Billy Burns, that's an interesting choice, but I don't rate it. I don't hate it, I actually don't mind that. But yeah, no, he played well, and it's good to see. Champa, who was your player of the week for round 25?
Oh, look, I have tried to pick a player, and I just cannot pick between these two players. For the first time on the Ankle Breaker podcast, I'm choosing two player of the weeks.
Ooh. That's allowed. Yep.
I'm going with Kalen Ponga and Greg Marju because I was at that game, Knights Souths. Ponga cemented himself not only as the best fullback in the world right now, but as a certified favorite for fullback of the year. And Greg Marju was just absolutely unbelievable in his runs. Are you kidding me? The meters he was making in the middle, whether it's on the sideline and the tries he was scoring, unbelievable. And I tried to pick one player, and it was just one of those rounds where I cannot. Ponga was great, Marju was great, the Knights were great. So for the first time in Anchor Breaker podcast history, I'm choosing 2 players for Player of the Week.
Yeah, well, that's allowed. I reckon that's allowed. And yeah, I mean, look, them 2 players are good for the Knights. So yeah, I can see why it's very hard to split that up. But yeah, fair call, in all honesty. As for me though, now I guess because I didn't get to watch most of the games live, it's hard for me to tell. But I'll just say because I was at Warriors Manly in New Zealand, I will say that he sort of killed us all night, and he sort of made us fall to our sword at some points. But I'll go down with Lesniak for my player of the week, and he was man of the match in that game too, I believe. But yeah, look, he's just turned beast mode this year. I think you know what it is. I think it's the hair. The hair's made him play better. I think
it's the curls.
Yeah, it's the curls, and I think it's all natural too, or you'd like to think it is. But no, he's done really well this year, and obviously Friday just showed why he's for me in contention for winger of the year, because I think his form has just shown that he means business this year, and he's playing really well. So it's probably for me to pick him for my player of the week. But yeah, Ponga goes close because Ponga's just been unbelievable. He's a big part of the reason why Knights have gone that run. So KP goes close, but because I was there live, DWZ for me.
Yep. Did you manage to see the Spider Wars? Or the group of boys that are all dressed up in that Spider-Man gear.
Yeah, I had a glimpse of that actually. I saw a bit of it, but just in general though, the atmosphere at Mount Smart's crazy. It's really good there actually. A lot of passionate fans, and yeah, it's good. It's a good crowd actually. Not a bad fan base of people, but yeah, some really funny people there too, I will say.
That's great.
Yeah, well there you go. There's our players of the week. There was a comment that I think someone asked me to get back onto. Don't know if it's still there. I hope it is. Well, I can't load it now, but I think it was by Viking Axe. So if that question is still something you want to ask me, Viking Axe, just type it in again. That's all right. But yeah, look, without further ado, we'll get into the 5 topics now of the show. So the very first one, and this is controversial, like I was saying before, as we will have a couple of controversial topics. But the first one, now in the Manly Warriors game, which I was at, and we all saw this situation. So about the 68th to maybe late 60th minute of the match, it was 22-all still. Cherry Evans tried to go for a field goal in the dying stages of the match, and it was going in. I was about to go crazy if it went in, but got charged down, and Ruben Garrick eventually got the ball after it was charged down by Josh Curran, I believe. And then after Garrick got the ball, Cookstad took out his legs and made him sort of nearly flip on the horizontal in the air. And there was no penalty blown for it. And I was a bit confused at the time because I thought that when that happens, that's more of a penalty, because what if Garrick landed on his head, and what if Garrick landed on his spine? And, the worst could have been happening if that was the case. So I don't know if that really is worth a penalty. I believe it is, but I don't know what you think. But it was a very interesting situation there. It was very controversial too. Champa, I bet you would have seen the tackle from CNK and Garrick. What's your whole thoughts on it? Was it worth a penalty or not?
That take my head off Lorenzo.
Okay.
I think it was a fine call. There was no intention to make a tackle, in my opinion. And I think people get the misunderstanding that his arm was out when he was coming towards Garrick. So, in my opinion, that was sort of a brace of impact, and unfortunately, it collected Garrick sort of the wrong way. But look, in my opinion, it wasn't any means of a tackle. it is controversial whether you want to say it is dangerous contact or not. But in my opinion, I do agree with the ref with what he called, and just saying and no penalty called during the contact. That's just personally my opinion. I can tell that you already disagree with me, Lorenzo.
Yeah, well, you got that right. But no, look, fair enough. It's your opinion there, but I just think that maybe I don't know. I just thought it was worth a penalty because he was obviously flipped in the air, and I thought that what if he landed on his head or neck? It would have been the worst, right? But look, we're all entitled to what you think here. So, Champa, you have your opinion, so fair enough. Even though I disagree. Dragons fan guy, you saw the tackle too. What do you think of it?
I mean, I would have given it a penalty personally. I actually didn't watch it live, that game. I just watched the highlights of it. But from what I saw of the replay of it, it was deserving of a penalty. I think once your tack got him in the air, it should be a penalty. Because you don't know what could happen if he landed on his head or neck, or we don't know what could have happened. Could have been a lot worse. But I think it was deserving of a penalty at least. I don't think anything like a suspension, but I think a penalty at least.
Well, you guys do say penalty, and that is understandable. But Garrett came up just fine. He landed on his back, and in my opinion, there was no sign of an injury on Garrett. So I don't see where the penalty would be formed. What penalty would you give to Charles Cox there?
Look, see, here's the thing for me though. Like, I guess it wasn't as intentional as what people make it out to be, but I still think there was a chance he could have pulled out of that. I think it wasn't the worst, and obviously we've all seen worse. Don't get me wrong, but just in terms of that though, I just think that maybe Kluckstad couldn't have just rushed in like that, and couldn't have taken the advantage of taking Garrick's legs out and potentially putting him in that position. And look, to this day, I do think it's a penalty, but I'm not going to sit here and say that Manly were robbed because of it, because it didn't change the game at all. That did not happen. But, it was definitely a bit costly, especially when the game was locked up with about 10 to go or nearly 15 to go. So it's a tough one. I know it's tough. Like, really, it is tough. But I don't know. I just think, there was every chance there that could have been couldn't have occurred if Kluckstad was a bit more smarter there. But I will just say this, though. I will say this. Say I was Reece Walsh or Sean Johnson or Reece Walsh or Nathan Cleary, just one of these golden boy players in the comp that everyone loves and loves to see. I reckon that was a penalty if that was to one of those players, I reckon. Or Mitchell Moses. It's just one of those players. They would be penalised for a tackle like that. It happened, I reckon, because, the game has a bit of favouritism towards those sort of players, and I feel like that would have been the case if that wasn't, a Ruben Garrick in that situation. I don't know. That's just me. But, yeah, again, it's tough to tell and it's tough to call. But, yeah, I still think it's a penalty to this day, but everyone has their opinion, and it's a tough one, I guess. It's tough. It's tough. So I believe this was the comment I was trying to refer to before, but in the chat, Viking King says, Pro Enzo, round 25 in 2024, mental health round should have the round because of Cole Turner. That was the round he took. Yeah. Okay, that's a good. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Yeah, we were saying before that we actually do believe a mental health round should take place sooner rather than later. So for sure. Definitely the NRL should look into something like that. I'd agree. But yeah, as I was saying, it's a tough one to really tell. But the Warriors won fair and square at the end of the day, so not much we can do now, sadly. But yeah, Warriors, well done. On to the second topic now, and this is where I guess we do talk about the club itself and what's been happening there. And it's really confusing to see what's downfall is for Rabbitohs. But what's wrong with the Rabbitohs boys? Like, what's wrong with them? Like, not long ago they were comfortable for the top four. They were locked in for finals if we all fought anyway. And ever since a couple of losses on the trot and a couple of key players since Origin have gone a bit missing, I reckon. They haven't been the same side, and yeah, you wonder why they've really fallen this low. It's hard to tell because for me, Souths are a dangerous team on their day. They're an excellent team on their day, and don't get me wrong, I still think they're dangerous, but it seems to me that their players since Origin have lost a lot of confidence in themselves, a lot of ability, and they have plenty of ability. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's a tough drop to fall from top 4 to fighting for your place for the 8 now. It's really confusing. Champa, what's your thoughts on the Rabbitohs? Why do you think this drop has happened for them?
Well, after attending the Newcastle Souths game, I've really wrapped it down to 3 things that I believe is wrong at South Sydney. And I'm lowering it down to fitness, their forwards, and Lachlan Ilias. In my opinion, the 3 problems that are at South Sydney. I'll start with fitness. They looked gassed in that second half. Like there was nothing left in the tank, especially their forwards. Every time Newcastle took a run, whether it was Callum Ponga, whether it was Greg Marju, even players like Tyson Rizal, they were making 20, 30, even 40 meters of kick returns. They were collecting it in their own 10 and somehow managed to be in South's 20 in one set. It was crazy. And I saw the South Sydney defense. They weren't rushing up to tackle the Knights. They were staying back on their line, waiting for the Knights to come to them. It's crazy that their fitness is that low. And it's what happens when you're taking basketball shots at training. We've all seen the video of them playing basketball at training. Seriously, instead of doing laps around the field or going for sprints, they're playing basketball. Oh, all right. Next is their forwards. Now, in my opinion, their forwards need a real look at themselves. I'll exclude Cameron Murray because, again, he is the defensive machine he's always been. But I'm looking at players like Totola, players like Shaquille Mitchell, who, again, with fitness are looking very gassed, especially Shaq Mitchell. His fitness is a disgrace. And not only that, their forwards just look they're not intimidating. They don't try and strike fear in the opposing forwards. They don't run with belief. They don't tackle like they're trying to defend their try line. They just don't give a shit. That Saifiti try should have never happened. Where were the forwards? Why were they awake to that? Seriously. And my third point, Lachlan Ilias. God, I look, him kicking the ball out on the full was just cherry on top, and why Lachlan Ilias needs to really look at himself and think to himself, all right, I am the halfback of this team. I need to lead South Sydney. South Sydney is a proud club. We should be in the top 4. I need to start playing like a top 4 side. There is no direction in Lachlan Ilias. And there's so much that Walker and Mitchell can do. They need Ilias to step up as well. Look, in my opinion, they have the bye this round. If Jason Demetrios is fair dinkum about still making the top 8, he needs to say to his team, all right, look, we got the bye. None of you guys are going on holiday. And if you do go on holiday, you're going to drop for the next game against the Roosters. I want every single one of you here during the weekend, and we're going to train our fucking asses off. Because we are now fighting for our top 8 side. They are. They're on the same points as the Roosters, and they're on the same points as the Cowboys. And the Roosters and Cowboys both have easy games going into the finals, and that final game with Roosters is against Souths. And that could potentially be fighting for the top 8. So they really need to step up and actually, take some consideration that, all right, well, we're not guaranteed a top 8 spot now. We've got to be fighting for it. And Jason Demetrios needs to put belief back into the Rabbitohs side. But yeah, again, my 3 reasons: their fitness, their forwards, and Lachlan Ilias. In my opinion, problems at the Rabbitohs.
Yeah, I look, that's a fair point. Honestly, they're fair points in my opinion. I think I don't know. It's weird to see because Souths are normally a really fit team. Like their attacking structure is really good, and that's why they're so fit, because of their attack and how good they score tries through their attack and fitness. But yeah, I don't know. It seems to be a real issue now, and why that is, I don't know. I can't really explain what's really wrong there. But yeah, you can definitely explain the players' confidences though. Like the big names like Latrell and Ilias have obviously been a bit disappointing. So you got to think why is it the case? And I guess there's various reasons to why it's happening, but it's confusing though. It really is confusing because I've always seen South as a really healthy club until now. But they're not over yet. But yeah, it's hard to tell honestly. Dragons fan guy, what's your thoughts on the Rabbitohs situation? Like, are you concerned about them, or do you think there's an easy fix to it? Like, what's the issue for Rabbitohs?
Well, I would never care about South Sydney, but no, I just think that they didn't expect that they'd be fighting for a top 8 spot. I think they probably have thought that they'd be guaranteed one and they wouldn't have to work this hard for one. And I'd agree with Champa with their fitness. I mean, Shaq was out there for, I don't know how long he was out there for. Only a few minutes after he got on, he looked like he was about to fall asleep at different points. Tavita Totola, he's coming back from injury. So, I might give him a pass on that, but the whole team in the second half was just probably one of the worst second halves I've ever seen, and worse than some of the Titans' second halves over the years. And I don't know with Lachlan Ilias. So I actually have never thought that he was ready to be their halfback so early on. But I personally would look at moving him to 5'8" and Walker being the halfback, in my opinion, for maybe next year and developing him a bit more. I just don't think he's good enough to be their halfback at the moment.
Yeah, interesting call actually, because here's the thing. I like Lachlan Ilias. I've always seen him as a really good young halfback that has, shown that he has potential, but I think with him at the moment, it seems to be more of his confidence that's down. And yeah, maybe something's happened at training. Maybe something's just occurred that has put the whole squad off. I don't know. It's really hard to tell. But yeah, no, that's a fair point about Ilias. I reckon it's it's up to him to really take ownership of the team as he's the halfback. But yeah, he's young and there's time. But you're not young forever. You're the halfback, so a lot of expectation gets put on you. But well, I will say though, it doesn't help when Luke Combs got involved with Latrell the night before the game between Knights and the Rabbitohs. Latrell drinking of Luke Combs, like obviously, yeah, they're both into their country music and they love all that sort of side of things, but no, you can't do it before a game. Like you just cannot be going to concerts and drinking yourself away. You can't do that.
Look, if you can give me a moment, Pro Enzo, because I'm going to rant here because this really pisses me off. All right, this really, really pisses me off. I don't care how big you are. I don't care if you're NRL players. I don't care if Luke Combs is your favorite player, because we've seen this very similar all the way back in 2019 when it was Brisbane Broncos against Parramatta Eels in that finals, and Brisbane got beat. What was it, 59-0?
Yeah.
In fact, we found out they were at the Pokies the night before. Okay, you are an NRL player and you're in one of the proudest clubs in our competition, and you're right now fighting to stay in the top 8. And your idea before a night is to go to a concert and drink.
Yeah, not good.
You do not deserve to be an NRL player, because I can tell you this right now: there are players in reserve grade who would do more than anything to take that position off you, and they would know not to drink, not to go out the night before, but to be ready, to be healthy, and to be prepared for a tough game, because the Knights are no easy beats. I don't know if South Sydney went into this game thinking Knights are going to be a cakewalk, because they're not, because they're on fucking fire right now. And for them to go, and for Latrell Mitchell, the face of the club, to be out seen drinking before a night before the game is absolutely fucking disgraceful. And he should really have a long, hard think about the image he's putting on to not only his players, but to his fans. Because he is, I'm going to say this right now, he was also one of the big reasons why they got smashed. And I think drinking the night before is a big, big reason why. Get your fucking act together.
And I think the NRL should bring it in that no player should be allowed to be at any venue that serves alcohol or drink alcohol while the season's on. You shouldn't, and the night before especially. I mean, it's just terrible when it's disrespectful to the club as well, and for his image. That it's not good for like young kids who look up to him to think that it's okay to do that before a game. To think it's kind of cool, and then to just rock up the day after and put in not a great performance. It's just terrible when there's people like Blake Taff in reserve grade that would love to be there each and every week in the South team. You know, Dean Hawkins, there's a heap of young players in reserve grade or at other clubs that would absolutely love to be at that top level who wouldn't be out drinking or at the pokies or whatever. I really think the NRL needs to do something about it, needs to bring in a rule about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one, though, because players have birthday parties and stuff and have time off when there's a bye or something. So, you know, it might be a bit hard to control all that alcohol stuff in the regular season. But, yeah, before a game, I think it's up to the players to really decide whether they take alcohol or drink it or not because, you know, they have a game the next day and you're found having alcohol and stuff, it's going to put you off and you're not going to be 100% fit, obviously. And that's what's happened to Latrell, unfortunately. So, yes, Latrell can have fun and you can enjoy his time with Luke Combs, but I guess alcohol, and it's a tough one because it shouldn't be illegal to players in the regular season, I don't think. But a night before the game, yeah, seriously, it's not a good look, I don't think. And as you said, Champa, he was a big part of the reason why South got smashed yesterday, and that's a shame because he's such a talent. We know how good he is on his day, but as being the face of the club, it's pretty disappointing to see him, I guess, showcase his actions by, you know, drinking and having too much fun before a game. It's just, yeah, you got to be a bit better than that, I feel like. But with the Souths dropping off, yeah, look, they're not done yet because obviously they've got 2 games to go and they've got the bye this week and Roosters in a big game, which probably decides if they make the 8 or not. But no Latrell, he's suspended for that week, so makes it tougher for them. But yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of factors you can probably think of that's to why they've dropped off so much. But yeah, it's tough. It's a tough one to really think about here. But yeah, you know, I don't know. It's a really tough one. But I think Seattle will be okay. But yeah, it's a strange one for sure. On to the third topic now, and this is one that sort of came to my mind this morning when I first saw it, and I'm a bit shocked about it because he's a one club man, and I never would have thought that he'd be a player that would be looking for a release anytime soon. And yeah, obviously the Broncos have many good young outside backs, that's for sure. But seeing Corey Oates apparently request a release or get a bit more money out of the Broncos is a real shock to me. And there's talk he might walk out of the club, and there's talk he might actually quit the club for good. I can't see that happening, but that's the talk at the moment. But yeah, he believes he wants more money, and he thinks that the Knights he might get a bit more of a pay rise there. So I don't know what he's really worth. I don't think he's worth anything more than 650K in my opinion. But Champa, when you saw this news come out this morning, what did you think of it?
Let's see. Let's go through Corey Oates' 2023 season. He had 5 games, 6 games. Name one thing he's done all season. Fuck all. And he thinks he can go around saying how much he thinks he is worth. Mate, what you put on the field is what you're worth. And Brisbane are going to see that. And as of right now, Cobbo and Arthurs are killing it on the winger position. I don't see a spot for him anywhere. And at least Brisbane are still trying to keep him as a one-man player, as a one-club player, despite how he thinks low the contract offer is. But he's got to understand. He has not, in my opinion, he's been very, very quiet this season. And I think that whatever Brisbane offered him was honestly right. And I think he must just think that his head is bigger than the club and just think he deserves more money. And look, if he wants to leave, then honestly, I think the best option for him is to leave because I don't see him anywhere. I don't see any room for him in the club as of right now. There's no room for Oates, in my opinion. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say. I think Oates needs to learn his place, in my opinion. Oates needs to learn his place.
Yeah, fair call. I think that's a fair call. And as he's a experienced player too, it's a bit, of a shock to me because he's been in that club for pretty much his whole career, and now he wants to potentially walk out and get more money elsewhere, which I find really strange because Oates not that sort of player that I think would be, bragging for more money. It's just not like him, I don't think. But there you go, things happen like that, and yeah, it's a real shame it's come down to this. Dragons fan guy, if you're still there, what's your thoughts on this whole Corey Oates situation and being linked to the Knights?
This is actually the first time I've actually heard about it, so I don't really have much to say about it. When you sent me the list about what we were talking about, it was the first time I heard about it. So, I agree with Champa. He hasn't really done much this year. Jesse Arthurs has been really good, and even Dean Mariner, in what has he played 3 games this year, has been so much better than Oates.
Yep.
And look, he's getting to the end of his career. And he's never really been a player that's worth a whole lot of money at any period, really. And I don't know. I agree with Champa. I don't know where he fits in next year, to be honest. If Arthurs keeps up the great form and Mariner keeps up the great form, those two I would put them ahead of Oates.
Yeah, I understand Oates with the injury that he copped. Obviously, it took most out of his season. But again, even if with him in the side, that I don't see any room for him in the Brisbane Broncos. They gave him a very small stint ages ago in the back row. Did not work out at all. Moving him back to the wing, he's been all right, but like what Dragons fan guy said, Arthur's been killing in that role, and now Dean Mariner. With the short time he's been there, I feel like he is, honestly, with the talent he showed, he's definitely the future of the Brisbane Broncos outside back. So, in my opinion, there is no room for Corey Oates, and maybe a move would help him.
But would you think that the Knights would be the best option, though?
Well, they are losing, Dominic Young next year, yeah. So they would need to find a top replacement for their winger position. I think with Corey Oates, you get a good you get 2 strong wingers on either side. You get Corey Oates, you get Greg Marshall. I think that's pretty good. However, those 2 wingers, look, Corey Oates, in my opinion, has never been the fastest winger. And Marju, he's strong, but he's fast, but he's not like fast like like Addo-Carr fast, or even someone like he's just not his speed isn't his strength, and neither is Oates. So a move to the Knights would be good, but you won't have speed on your winger positions, and that's my only concern.
Yeah, look, it's interesting because Oates is a prolific try scorer, in my opinion, and he's a very decent winger in his day. But as you said, Champa, he made that one switch to the back row one time, and that did not work out at all. And that was back in 2019 or 20. I think that happened, and it didn't work. Unfortunately now it's like he's had a few games at Broncos and he's done well, but not well enough. So yeah, and sorry if I'm cutting out a bit. My phone's at 1%, so I'm really trying to charge it here, but my cord's fucked. So gotta do what I can. But yeah, look, obviously the Broncos and themselves probably, if Oates does want to leave the club, then let him go, because I think the Broncos have enough talent like Dean Mariner in there and have a few other good young kids coming through. But Oates is old now. He's not going to get any younger, so might as well let him go and let him get the money he thinks he's worth, because I think Broncos can spend that money elsewhere and not waste on Oates, who hasn't played much footy in the past couple of years, and being honest. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's a bit more healthier for the Broncos to move on from Oates, if I'm being honest. But he's a good player though, so we'll see what happens. Okay, on to topic number 4 now, the second last topic. Now, this was actually announced on Monday too, I believe, and this was announced on the same day as the podcast last week, or Tuesday, one of those days. But, yeah, this is another shock, and this is a shock that I think could either work out for Pangai Jr. or could just make him waste his potential for good and could really just ruin him in general, because I think he's had enough time in the RL to really fulfill his potential. But, yeah, look, last week he announced his retirement, and obviously, the next 2 weeks are his last games in the comp, and after that he'll be out of NRL and playing boxing, I guess. So it's a real interesting move for him, but he has experience in boxing, so I guess that's helps him a bit. But I don't know. I think he's just retiring a bit too early. It wouldn't surprise me if he came back one day, in my opinion. But Dragons fan guy, what's your thoughts on this one? Pangai Jr. retiring, going to the boxing.
I mean,
Do you like it?
it's a hard one because we know that he's got the potential, but I just don't know if we'll ever see that on the footy field. It's a hard one, and I honestly think there's more to it than what the Bulldogs are saying. I think the best we've seen of him is the 4 or 5 games he played for the Panthers. Is it last year or the year before? But it's a hard one. I don't know if he can stay fit and not be childish with boxing and take it seriously. But yeah, I do think he probably will come back though at some point.
Yeah, I agree, Dragons fan guy. Unfortunately, I think we have lost Pro Enzo, but I'll give my quick thoughts on the topic as well. Look, I always thought that the potential was there for Tevita Pangai Jr. to be a massive name within the NRL. I mean, Freddie Fiddler obviously saw that potential. That's why he gave him the surprising call-up to Origin, but it was clear to us that he was not ready. I still think there was time to turn it around. He was only 27. There was still time to turn things around and get his career back on track, but he's surprisingly made the decision to walk away from NRL and to become a full-time boxer. Now, I do hope that this boxing career is a proper boxing career, not that circus act that Paul Gallen and the rest of the rugby league players try to do. I hope this is a proper boxing career he's taken up, because look, I still think he has what it makes to be a great forward within the NRL, and I still think he could be a top player. I do think we'll see him back. Look, they all eventually come back. Sonny Bill Williams, everyone, they all eventually seem to come back, and I do think we will see him again in the NRL. Whether it's in 1, 2, maybe in a few years' time when he's 33 and he just wants to have one last stint in the NRL. I do think we'll see him back, but I hope he kills it. I hope he kills it in boxing, because he does have a very small. He does have some experience there. And look, if he wants to walk away from a whole career that he's spent his life achieving, to try and achieve something else, and let's just hope he kills it. But look, it is going to be interesting to see what happens. Now, I'll ask you this, Dragons fan guy. Do you think Tevita Pangai Jr. leaving NRL would affect the Bulldogs in any way?
Not really, no. I mean, he hasn't made much of an impact since joining the club, really. There's not, I can't really think of something that's amazing that he's done that I can think of on the top of my head. Was it the 2 years nearly 2 years he's been there? And I mean, it frees up the salary cap for them, and I don't see it as really a big problem for them. Because, I mean, his form this year has not been great at all, especially the game a couple of weeks ago. Was it the Raiders one a couple of weeks ago, I think, was probably the worst effort I've ever seen from anybody. I think his mind's been out of the game for a long time.
That's well said, and I agree. His mind's definitely been away from rugby league. And look, when he was on that small loan with the Penrith Panthers, I watched him play, and I thought, you know what? All right, because he had a good little stint at the Panthers, and I thought, okay, if this is what he's showing, then it's bright signs for the Bulldogs. But he just never seemed to find that form. And again, his origin selection was very surprising, even as much as getting a starting position in a Blues team. And again, that game he did, he was defensively poor and showed no sign of attack. And then after the Origin game, it just seemed to go downhill for him. So I do agree. I don't think it is going to be much of a loss for the Bulldogs because, like you said, that salary cap space is cleared up and they can spend that money on a top fullback, or in my opinion, what they truly do need is a top A-class halfback. So this gives them more options now to look at some better players, and I don't think it's going to affect them at all. But
I do wish him the best though, because meeting him a few times and talking to him, he is a nice guy. It's just unfortunate that he's never found the coach to give him that's been the best one for him. I mean, Ivan Cleary was good under Cleary, but I would have liked to seen him, be at Penrith a bit longer. Than was it 4 weeks or something? Because then when he played at Penrith, I thought, finally we might get to see the potential, because we've seen it over the years, little glimpses of it. He's a talented player. It's just unfortunate it's ended like this for him. I know this wouldn't have been an easy decision for him, but I think it could be a really good one for him if he takes the boxing seriously, and that's what I think. If he takes it seriously and has a really good crack at it for maybe 2-3 years and maybe come back in maybe 2026 or 2027, just end out his career, I think that's kind of how it's going to go.
Exactly, because he's walking away from a career that he spent his whole life achieving. Ever since he was growing up, all he wanted to be was an NRL player. Now he's walking away from that to be a boxer. So I hope that when he does take up this opportunity, he's not going to fight ex-NRL players, but actually take him seriously and fight some real boxers. And it looks like we have Pro Enzo back.
Guys, I'm so sorry about that. That's just, I'm fuming because my phone was supposed to be charging that whole time, and the charger, it's not that great, but it does the job for now. But
get a Nokia, mate. Get a Nokia. Get the Nokia brick. You'll last for ages.
Well, my situation is much worse than Nokia in general. So I apologize about that. But I guess we'll move on to the final topic. I guess. Again, sorry to the viewers about that. Anyway, we'll cap it off with our, thoughts on the ladder and just the final 2 spots up for grabs here. And it's a really interesting race actually, because obviously Knights are finding some form, and obviously teams like Manly, Eels are pretty much out. But I think there's a slim chance of Roosters and the Cowboys to do something, but they don't have much hope either. But just a quick sort of thoughts on this one. Who gets the final positions between 7th and 8th? I'll start with you first, Champa.
Well, look, you're looking at that 5 to 8 positions you have. I'm pretty sure I don't think this is the order, but I'm pretty sure it consists of the Raiders, the Sharks, the Knights, and the Rabbitohs. You look at that. I reckon you can put clear marks on Sharks, Raiders, and I would say now the Knights, that they are clear favourites for the 8. I think the Knights are clear favourites for the 8. So in my opinion, the Knights take that 7th position. Now you got 1 position left, and I feel like that 1 position is being fought by 3 teams, and that's the Rabbitohs, the Cowboys, and the Roosters, all right now on the same points. The Rabbitohs have the best for and against. It all comes down to how the Cowboys and Roosters final games go, because Souths get the bye, so they'll get an extra 2 points. They'll be on 30 points. If Cowboys and Roosters lose these the next games coming up this round, they're behind the Rabbitohs, and it all comes down to for and against. So they really need to make sure they win these last 2 games. But if I'm a betting man and I'm going to pick the final spot, I've ridden on them in the start of the year, and I'm going to continue riding them even if they're looking a bit dark, but I still think we haven't seen the best of Souths. They take that 8th position. I've always been higher than this year, and I will admit they have been going for a bit of a dark patch. But if I know Souths and if I know Latrell Mitchell and all those boys, they pick themselves up from these dark moments. And in my opinion, they will find their form and they will take that 8th position. So 7th or 8th, I'll say Knights and South Sydney.
I like it, but very interesting. But I like it there actually. I think, those two teams have potential to still make the 8, and I think with the Knights, for me they're just solidifying their spot week in and week in week. You know, I think they really are a top 8 smoking, even a final smoking too. Newcastle, that's another thing. Dragons fan guy, for yourself, bro. Who gets the final spots in 7th and 8th positions in the ladder?
I think, definitely the Knights. And I would, surprisingly, agree with Champa, with Souths. With that lineup they've got determination, and I think they can do it. And it's a bonus for them. They've got the bye. And up against the Roosters, those Roosters games are always great games. And I think the Rabbitohs, but I wouldn't put it past the Cowboys to do something, because, I mean, I don't know, who do they have this week? They have an easy team, don't they? I think
they play the Dolphins, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past the Cowboys, but I'd go Knights and Souths, definitely.
Fair call. Look, with me, I agree with you both. I think that Knights and Rabbitohs do get those final 2 spots, but I'll go South 7th and Knights 8th. I think I'll go in that position instead. Look, I think Newey are starting to really find themselves form, and Ponga's been the backbone of that success for the Knights recently. So I think with them playing Sharks and the Dragons, well, one more win that locks themselves. They lock themselves to the top 8. So just that final win and they make it. I think against the Dragons in round 27 they'll win. And like, even if they lose to the Sharks this week, they can still make the 8 if they beat the Dragons, which I think they will. So I'll have Newey in there, and I think I'll have Rabbitohs in there too, purely because, Souths are Souths. I think Souths will find a way somehow, and they're too good and too dangerous to be missing out on the 8, I reckon. So I'll have Souths and Knights in there, I reckon, like you two said before. But it'll be very interesting, actually. It will be very interesting to see the final top 8 for the year. But
hey boys, can I get your opinion on one thing, if you don't mind, Coenzo?
Yeah, sure, bro.
So next year with the Tigers, would you have Sutherland at 5'8" or Latu?
Latu.
It's a tough one, because I think with Latu they'll bring him in slowly, I think. But I think.
Ooh, we might have lost Proenzo again. Oh, there he is.
Some phone call came in this time. Fucking hell. But yeah, Sullivan and Caesar, that'll be my halves pairing. But Latu will take over from Caesar once he retires, I reckon. So that's how I see it. Champa, you're a Tigers fan. What would you do?
Look, I'm going to go Latu Fanu here. We've heard so many raps about this young kid, and even his brother, who's also at the club right now, saying that they were killing it at Manly, were straight through their junior systems, and now they've made their home at the West Tigers. And I like Jaden Sullivan, and Dragons fan guy, you would know a lot about Sullivan. In my opinion, I feel like he's not that much of a game manager. He's very similar to Loy, as his individual efforts is what makes him a great player, and that looks great on a highlight reel. But in terms of directing the team around, I don't think he has that capability. Whereas Latu Fanu, even though in his young age, I still feel like you have Latu Fanu under the stewardship and the leadership of Aiden Caesar. They can work well together. And once Aiden Caesar does retire, you also have Sullivan, who would make a great jersey 14, coming to that starting side, and that halves pairing could be the future of the West Tigers. But I'm not rubbing off Sullivan and Caesar. I still think that would also be a good lineup. But in my personal opinion, I'll give Latu Fanu that promotion to the starting lineup.
I love Bud. I think the West Tigers should go with Latu and Caesar, personally, and Bud for the 14. And when Aiden does retire, I think Bud should go to 5'8", and Latu should go to halfback. But next year I'd have it as Latu at 5'8" and Caesar at halfback.
The Marshall era is truly looking good. We gave Luke Brooks his barbecue, and now we're going to give more barbecues out to these players, all right? And barbecues for everyone.
Yeah, Vaughnie. Let's go, Vaughnie.
Yes.
Poor Brooks. I mean, after 11 years of service, he gets given a barbecue. Seriously? A barbecue?
Stop there.
Give him a footy or something, like a special football like they normally do for players, you know? A barbecue? What the fuck? I can't believe that still.
Hey, a barbecue's great. It's our thank you to Brooks for all his service to us.
You just better find a better hiding place than Paul Vaughan did.
Poor Brooks, honestly. Well, he'll get something a bit better at Manly, hopefully.
Stop it.
But barbecue, don't agree with that one bit. But anyway, that brings end to a good show for tonight. Now, sorry about my phone dying at one stage, and obviously, yes, that was not ideal, but it happens, and we can't do much about it. But look, good show, honestly, good show. I really enjoyed it. Thank you to Dragons Fan Guy for being a special guest tonight. And as always, all at Champa. Good to have you on again, brother. And boys, cheers to the podcast.
Oh, all good, lad. We had a good time.
Thanks for having me on, bro. And thanks everyone for watching.
All right, thanks, boys. All right, everybody, subscribe to Pro Enzo Vidz and All Out Champa. I'm sure, as normal, Pro Enzo will have it linked down below, and like the video and that as well.
Yeah, and subscribe to Dragons Fan Guide too. You know, he's obviously getting better with his content, so please go and check him out as well. But look, that brings it into a good show for episode 69, a very special number indeed. On to 70 next week. So have a good night, everyone, and enjoy your round of football ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce.